Hello again and welcome back to my channel. I found a random piece of wood in the shed which measures approx 5 inches by 12 inches or approx 12.5 centimeters by 30 centimeters. I started by adding a generous portion of the gel medium to the raw wood as I wanted to ensure that the lace was well adhered to the wood. I decided that I didn't want the lace down the middle, so I moved it more over to the left-hand side edge and added a piece of tissue paper to the bottom right corner, using the same gel. I had some plastic film strips already in my stash and I wanted to try and incorporate one into this project. Again, I used the same gel medium to stick it down with. I'd already rummaged through my embellishments and had a bit of a plan of what I wanted to do, so I started placing them on the wood. I always start with the largest elements first. This time to stick the elements down I used heavy body gel as it is thicker and more robust. Once it's on, it's on. I started with the bigger pieces and just built my way up the embellishments. Some of the pieces moved from their original spot, but that's okay, there is no right or wrong, it's just wherever you think they are best placed to balance out the composition. As you can see, I'm using a variety of different types of embellishments, i.e., resin shapes which I cast and molded myself, chipboard and metal pieces, pearls, gems, straws, old clock pieces, a bit of everything. You can add in anything you want to. It's your project. Just ensure that you add a generous amount of the gel, but make sure that you do a cleanup either as you go or at the end. But if you miss a bit, don't worry too much as the gel dries clear. I keep checking that my main focal point still fits and is going to sit in the right place, as there is still time to move the pieces that have already been stuck down. I tend to stick down the larger pieces first and finish with the smaller ones, as it's easier to see where the gaps are and know what spaces need filling once the larger pieces are in place. And I finally stick the frame down once I'm happy with the placement of the embellishments. The really good thing about the Finnabair gel is that you can heat it up. The hotter it gets, the stickier it gets, and when it cools, which doesn't take long, it sets solid. So using a heat gun to aid the drying process really helps. Or you can let it dry naturally if you prefer. The next thing to do is prime all the embellishments with white gesso. You may well be wondering why I didn't do this first before gluing them down. Well, firstly, I didn't entirely know which ones I was going to use, and secondly, it's just the way I prefer to do it. But obviously, you do it whichever way you are most comfortable with. They only needed one thin coat and a quick dry, as next I am going to paint them. Now it's time to start adding some color. All paints are liquid acrylics from the Finnabair range. The first color choice is burnt sienna. I applied the paint straight from the bottle to a few different areas of the project, then I used my spray bottle of water to flood the colors out. And the most important thing to remember is to dry thoroughly before layering the next color of paint, or you will end up with mud. I applied more of the same color, but this time I didn't use as much water as I wanted a darker shade. The next color I used was ochre. I continued with exactly the same process as I did with the burnt sienna. This time I tipped the wood in different directions to get the paint to run into all the nooks and crannies. And don't forget to dry this color thoroughly too. And the last paint color I chose was umber. I sped this section up as it's exactly the same technique as the previous two colors and then the drying. Next I wanted to add some depth so that the pieces looked 3D, so I used black ink paint. I used the black ink straight from the bottle with a very thin brush to get right down to the base of the wood between the embellishments to try and add depth. I also wanted to create some shadow around the embellishments too. And again I made sure that I thoroughly dried it. Next came the waxes. I started with Finnabair aged brass. I decided to use a small brush to really get deep into the embellishments. However, don't be too heavy-handed to start with, scrub some off the brush. You can't take it off, but you can always add more. And just keep applying the layers until you achieve the color and the depth that you require. If you wish, you can introduce another color, but I decided just to stick to the one color for now. It really is personal preference as to where you want to put it and how much you want to put on. Just keep layering and layering until you are happy with the result. As you can see, I wanted really good coverage everywhere. I also decided to age the stopwatch chipboard piece too. I didn't put any paint on this, it's just primer and wax. I used a circle punch to cut out the image I wanted to use from a piece of scrapbook paper. I used some paper glue to stick the image to the chipboard stopwatch. I used the medium soft gel to stick the two pieces of chipboard together. I used heavy body gel to stick the stopwatch piece to the frame on the wood. And to finish off, I used the Finnabair matte patina green wax. This time I used my finger to apply the wax as I wanted more control over where to put it, and I just wanted to tickle the edges of the embellishments. Again, don't be too heavy-handed, you can always go back in and add more. And there we go, the finished project. Thank you for staying with me, and I hope you enjoyed watching me make this. I really hope you will have a go yourself. Please leave me a like and a comment if you can. Let me know what you think and if you like the voiceover or not.